voglio stare meglio.
In 1918, Allied powers faced a stalemate on the Western Front in the Grand Est and Ardennes regions of northeastern France. They sought to make a massive offensive to push their September 25th front line to the infamous Hindenburg Line, freeing France from German occupation. The American Meuse-Argonne offensive took place in the Argonne Forest, the southernmost section of this so-called 100 Days offensive by the Allies. It's here where over 1 million American soldiers were positioned, overlooking the entire American line, and the Allies' objective of securing the Binarvie-Le Vierge road was Hill 198. Deeply entrenched in protecting German artillery, communications, and anti-air weapons, Hill 198 became the first priority for the American offensive. Led by Major Whittlesey, the 574 men of the 77th Expeditionary Division were deployed to take control of the hill. Their flanks were to be secured by the American 24th Division to their right and the French 4th Army to their left. On October 2nd, the Allied army set out. Unbeknownst to the 77th, however, was that German counterattacks had stalled both their right and left flanks, leaving them vulnerable. Against odds, the 77th pushed miles alone, through 5 lines of fortified trenches, barbed wire listening posts, 20-foot thick concrete machine gun bunkers and pavilions, and thousands of German soldiers deeply entrenched. After a day of fighting, they secured the hill, only suffering 20 casualties, while inflicting thousands upon the Germans, who were caught on a retreat as they overestimated the size of the 77th Division, because after all, why would 500 men push an army nearing 10,000? The 77th stuck into their position, still waiting for their flanks to capture the surrounding hills. It was days later, when the American flag failed to fly over hills 203 and 205, that Whittlesey realized he was surrounded. Denying the option to retreat and keeping with the initial order to secure the hill, Whittlesey ordered his men to strip all the white cloth out of their uniforms so the Germans wouldn't confuse them with flags to surrender. Him and the now 554 men of the 77th held out wave after wave of German attacks, mortars, and sniper fire for 3 days. The Americans defeated German divisions numbering 10 times greater than themselves. It is this feat that earned them the legendary status as the Lost Battalion. Despite these victories, the 554 men at the start of the defense had now been reduced to 194, with the other 360 men injured, captured, killed, or missing. Additionally, 7 of the 8 carrier pigeons sent by Whittlesey to alert the Allies of their position and situation had been shot down by the Germans. When a miscommunication led to American mortars firing on Whittlesey's position, the men knew their time was running out. They huddled around their last carrier pigeon grimly and named him Cher Ami, or Dear Friend in French. Hatched in early 1918, he was given to American pigeoneers for training, and was brought by Colonel Ernest Cockler to Hill 198. He was now their only hope. With the message, "We are along the road parallel 27.6.4. Our artillery is dropping a barrage directly on us. For heaven's sake, stop it," tied to his leg, Cher Ami was tossed into the air. Instantly, a mortar round exploded directly under the bird, killing 5 men and launching shrapnel through Cher Ami's chest. He fluttered to the ground injured and blinded in one eye from the blast, and the men knew their last chance had failed. Just then, however, Cher Ami rose up and miraculously began to fly back up toward the Allied lines. Facing constant anti-air barrages and German rifle fire, Cher Ami dodged thousands of bullets on his way to headquarters. For 20 minutes he flew through the sky, littered with bullets and with shells set to explode at his altitude, until he was finally struck in his right leg, tearing off everything apart from a single tendon that held the message in place. After arriving back to base, Army medics saved Cher Ami and amputated his leg. The shelling immediately stopped, and the location of the Lost Battalion gave relief efforts from the 154th Brigade a target. After 3 more days of holding off dozens of attacks from German stormtrooper flamethrower units and soldier counts numbering in the thousands, Americans flooded into Whittlesey's position, and the Germans were forced to retreat. A retreat that would only stop after the Germans signed the armistice, their surrender, on the 11th of November, 1918.
But the American punch counted. War-wearied Germans surrendered in droves. The end was near at hand. And finally, on that unforgettable November the 11th, the blessed armistice came to the trenches. The triumphant legions of the Allies and the AEF swept back from the hard-won fields of victory. And over the whole world rose a paean and clamor of hysterical joy at the end of the horrible struggle. Paris, London, New York. Who could ever forget that surging, glorious day of celebration in New York City?
Whittlesey was promoted to lieutenant colonel. 7 men were granted Medals of Honor, 4 granted Silver Stars, and 32 men were granted Distinguished Service Crosses. Cher Ami was granted the Croix de Guerre by the French government, and later, much after his death, he was inducted into the Racing Pigeon Hall of Fame, received a gold medal from the Organized Bodies of American Pigeon Fanciers, and received the Animals and War and Peace Medal of Bravery. On April 16, 1919, Cher Ami and the 77th were brought home to a ceremony and parade in their honor. General John Pershing, the general of the entire American Expeditionary Force in World War I, made a statement honoring Cher Ami, saying, "There isn't anything the United States can do too much for this bird," or in other words, Cher Ami's achievements have surpassed any luxury or award that could be granted to Cher Ami. Additionally, several songs, novels, picture books, movies, and even a 1919 silent reenactment of Cher Ami's heroic actions have been made in his honor. 8 months after sustaining his injuries, though, while in his designated bird sanctuary, Cher Ami died from complications with a shrapnel wound to his chest. His body was taxidermied and donated to the Price of Freedom exhibit in Washington, D.C., where he still remains today, where this American hero would be forever memorialized. And thus, the less than 600 Americans who killed over 10,000 Germans, pushed miles through the world's densest and most well-fortified forests completely by themselves, survived 6 days completely surrounded while rationing their food and crawling under machine gun fire for a single drink, proved that in their first battle ever, and America's first battle of the entire World War, that Americans can do anything. And thus, the first show of force of the United States in a world war was mere days away from failure, and Cher Ami and his compatriots' victory not only guaranteed a snowball effect, as French, British, and Belgian offensives sprang up to push into Germany, but also cemented America's position as the world's most powerful country for over a century to come. Thank you for watching.